Aloha, I am June Jones of the Houston Roughnecks, and this is the XFL show.
More burger! For the love of football! For the love of football! For the love of football! For the love of
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
Welcome, football fans. This is For the Love of Football, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
And I'm Bryant.
When the AFL and the NFL decided to meet in a supersized championship game for all the marbles, those leagues were different, but they were playing the same game. So what would an interleague championship game between the XFL and the CFL look like? This is episode 166. We're talking super, mega, Grey Cup Bowl, Bryant. At least that's what I'm calling it.
Would this be all for the marbles? Marbles.
All the marbles and the Grey Cup, and $1 million to each player on the winning team. That's my Supermega.
$1 million to each player. That's some serious cash. We're going to get into that later this episode. That's a very interesting concept, one that I don't know how many people are actually a fan of, and I'm talking about myself, but we'll get into that. It's been an interesting week, as I like to say. Not a lot of snippets out there, not like what we got with Randy Ambrosi last week, full-on interview. But we got a little bit of something.
Yeah, we have some stuff to sink our teeth into. Of course, most of it is speculation, but those are the times we're in right now.
The best
in
times.
This waiting period that Brian is so fond of. 724-5654-XFL is the number for you to call or text, leave a message, a voicemail, whatever you want. Feedback, whatever you want to give us. You could do it there on the XFL Fan Line. What do you think interleague play would mean for the XFL and the CFL? That's what we're getting into today, and you're probably going to have some thoughts and opinions on that. So call us up or hit us up on social media at XFL Show on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you like to hang out on your social media. We're not on TikTok, although my wife got on that now, Brian, and the good thing is I always have the TV now because she's just on TikTok for hours.
Yeah, it's very easily, yes. Very
with
easy
baseball and hockey going on, it's great. It's great right now. And when that spring league starts popping up in a couple weeks too, I get all the TVs. So at XFL Show, hit us up. And of course, we're brought to you this week by Pretty Easy Podcasts. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com to get your podcast started today. Dinking and dunking around XFL social media, Bryant. Your former best friend at the league, I would say the top dog when it comes to friends of Bryant at the XFL. Heather Brooks Carrots, the former president of the LA Wildcats, announced on Twitter that she will be joining United Talent Agency in an executive role. Congratulations to her. Wishing her all the best. Really cool friend of the show. Awesome, innovative thinker. And I'm sure she'll do fantastic. But from 2020 to now, Bryant, you look at some of these people that we knew at the league and ourselves, and everybody seems to have moved on. Well, everybody except us. Hashtag we want our jobs back. Still here talking XFL.
Yeah, it's a sign of the times, I guess. You gotta take what you can get and not hold on to hope about something else.
I'll just take, I guess, an executive job at a gigantic agency in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Congrats to my best friend Heather. But in reality, I think this is what we're going to see. Anybody who was associated with the XFL in 2020, as time goes and as we get closer and closer,
less available
to postponing 22 and moving to 2023. You're going to see this. People are just going to be less available. The coaches aren't going to be around. They're not going to want to coach. Executives, corporate people, as I've put it on the show before, all those people are going to move on. They're going to find different gigs, and they're going to have to start from scratch. Is
the pool of corporate people deeper than the pool of coaches? Like when you're looking for presidents and coaches, do you think there's more easier to find those corporate people or the head coaches for a football team?
Easier, I think it's to find coaches because they'll take the chance on a 1 year or a 2 year gig, see what happens, and make the best of it. If you're an executive or a corporate person, are you going to take another chance on the XFL? I guess that's we'll be seeing, but that's
and you need to find like super creative thinkers in business and in sports business in particular, whereas a coach it's a tough job, but just needs to know how to run a team. It's a different animal. And this is,
well, if you coached here, you've coached there, you kind of can do it, right?
The landscape of football isn't changing like the world of business and technology and everything else going on in the sports world these days.
Do you think June Jones might be the most versatile coach in the history of coaching? When you talk about what he's done in his career,
I'm wondering what the hell you're doing in this league.
You mean in terms of like offensive innovation everywhere he's went, putting up big numbers everywhere
where he's coached, he's been successful at the college level, has rebuilt college leagues. Programs, CFL, XFL, never lost a game in the XFL, pros. He's just everywhere he goes.
He is, and he's one of our favorites, and hopefully he'll be involved whenever this league eventually kicks off. But that's not what today's show's about. Not that much speculation. We're going to speculate about interleague play in just a little bit, Brian. But real quick, wanted to dink and dunk around some comments made about last week's show. Canadians, fun fact, I love Canadians. They hate my idea about a July 4th championship week for an XFL CFL alignment, because Canadians, a lot of you, and we appreciate you, this is all about learning. The talks between the XFL and CFL, they're learning together. We're learning together. And I learned this week, Canadians don't consider it football season, Bryant, unless it's around Labor Day. And that's labor with a U.
Well, so in fairness, us Americans don't either.
It's true. September,
but we have the NFL. We have the college football and the NFL. Basically, is that whole week. Sometimes we get football pros. It's usually after Labor Day, but definitely college is rolling by then, and we'll get to watch some of that. So I get it, but you got to talk about what the XFL is trying to do, and I mean that by saying what is the XFL trying to do, and they're not trying to compete with the NFL. They're trying to be done by then. So a lot of factors go into that. I just don't see how you roll a season all the way through, especially when you have players.
Sacrifice.
Here's the thing: the CFL is used to having players not want to go to the NFL, right? Long-term contracts, all these things. It's not what the XFL was about, and it's not what they're probably going to be about in this first iteration when they come back.
So we understand it, we respect it.
Yeah, totally.
But thinking outside the box and thinking that might be something that needs to be sacrificed, I'm still down with that 4th of July timeline, but who the hell knows what the time frame is. It's really the least important thing. Players is always the most important thing, at least to me. That's what I'm focused on. That's why I'm hyped to talk about what we're going to get into in the cover 2 this week, Bryant, along with some interesting news about the CFL that, was basically news that's going to be announced soon that was already kind of leaked. We'll get into it. It's time for this week's cover 2.
Back to work we go.
Okay, so Arash Madani, Sportsnet in Canada, Bryant, said that April 19th is the scheduled date by the CFL, according to rumors they're hearing throughout league sources. The CFL will officially confirm the 2021 season will not start on time. So look for that as of this live on tape recording of the podcast. I believe it's early morning on the 16th. So in a few days, the CFL should be saying we're postponing, and we'll hear what they're not canceling, and then we'll hear what they're actually going to do when it comes to a delayed kickoff. They're trying to get money from the government in Canada. The government in Canada is not going to give them money. They're trying to get fans in the stands in Canada. The government is not allowing fans in the stands quite yet because the vaccine rollout is pretty slow in Canada and the numbers are still high in this pandemic. So still kind of where we were last year this time for the CFL, although closer to the finish line for sure. We'll see if they actually get into a 2021 season. Meanwhile, the CFLPA last week also sent out a memo to players basically saying, this is where we're at. They're probably going to postpone. We don't know when we're kicking off, but don't do anything that's going to affect your job here in the CFL, because then you could be screwed. So just be patient, basically, is what the CFLPA told the players in a memo, Bryant. That's where we're at with the new XFL partner, or partner-to-be, I guess we should say.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of hope out there that the CFL would be able to actually launch. I think we saw from a lot of fans that were optimistic about it all. Players with this 20% pay cut request. Maybe there's a possibility to meet in the middle. I don't even know if that was ever really negotiated by the league and the players to see if there was another place to meet. Was it something for the owners to say, hey, we're going to offer something, but that's just because we don't really want to do this because we're not going to make any money, so we're not going to offer that at all. The CFL has found itself in a weird, every year since I was, I don't know, maybe for the last 15, maybe even 20 years, I've gone to the OC Fair. The OC Fair is not broadcast on television. They make money by attendance. No one's going, they cancel them. How can you be in that same model as a professional sports league if you can't open your doors? You can't function.
So Bryant, you just, so I could get this straight, compared the CFL to a county fair.
I compared the business models is what I compared, right? If there were, I'm going to
say what Vince would say if he were on this show. That's great. He's a big fan of county fairs.
I'm a huge fan of county fairs. Deep fried everything, man. It's the way to go. If you've never had deep fried cheesecake, very good. But back to what I'm saying is if that's the model you're following, yeah. You're why do Macy's close stores? It's because people stop going. They shop online. They find ways to entertain themselves at home. And if the CFL is doing that, then this is the problem that's going to happen. And that's the uniqueness of what they have in front of them compared to pretty much any other sports league in North America. NHL is very close to this, by the way. They pride themselves on their attendance.
Yeah.
And not huge on their TV contracts. It's going to change, obviously, this coming season with their new deals. But to have that be your bread and butter, obviously COVID's going to take that away from you.
And don't forget, sports betting is lagging up in Canada too, but that's soon to change. But CFL, County Fair League, I guess is what Bryant's getting at here with that analogy.
Business models.
Business models.
I don't think I've wanted him in there. Vancouver loves me.
You're really, he's big in Vancouver. And you know what? He's got a certain style, but he appreciates the game. I'm teaching him it slowly but surely. I think there will be a 2021 kickoff in the CFL. There has to be. And when they kick off, I can't wait because I'm going to be watching games with Bryant. We're going to be watching them together. I'm going to be teaching them. It's going to be a lot of fun this season. Like we said, the most anticipated CFL season of all time, at least on this show.
Anticipated CFL season of all time, yes.
In XFL history.
That's where I was going. The XFL history. Yes.
That was the name of a few episodes ago.
Go check it out.
So
a lot of fun.
That's where we're at with the CFL situation. The XFL's conversation partner right now. And, we can't move forward with the XFL and CFL relationship without the CFL getting their stuff together right now. So that's obviously
I don't know about that.
Well, the CFL's not going to do anything until they get their ducks in the row for this season, right? They're not going to announce anything with this XFL. They're not going to make anything formal until the 2021 season is figured out. We can agree on that, right?
They might not announce it. I'm not saying they're not working on this and actually have a plan in place. I'm not saying the CFL is deceiving their fans. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
But what I do think is happening is there's full discussions happening on whether or not they should even play 2021. They might be committed to saying that they're committed to playing. I know that for a fact, but I don't know how committed they are to playing. Why? They have to. Of course they do.
Yeah.
Imagine they say, hey, we're going to talk to the XFL. We're not going to play this year. We'll see you when we see you. Like, that can't happen. You have an image.
And then they don't play, and then what are they going to go to the XFL owners and tell Jerry Cardinale, Danny Garcia, and The Rock, So we didn't play this season, and we're kind of like all the teams are going bankrupt. So what are we going to do? What's the plan? That's not.
But if
that
you
can't
can
happen.
incorporate future plans with the XFL at the same time moving your 2021 season, then I think that's possible.
So we'll see if that reporting from Sportsnet is correct. But April 19th, we're anticipating the CFL's official announcement of the postponement of the 2021 football season. And then we'll move on from there. But that's where we're at. Moving on now to a league that's scheduled to play and has a TV plan in place and is good to go in just a few short weeks here. Again, Bryant, they literally did just play. I mean, a season was in flux. It was a bubble season, but the spring league tried to play in not the spring and sort of got it done, although it was a grind. But now they're back playing in the actual spring, and pretty sweet TV schedule. This is a real, let's take a look-see, it looks like, by the Fox networks by giving all this airtime to football. It seems very experimental. It's in some time slots that like channels like FS1 and FS2 are more than happy to be airing a league like the Spring League, I'm sure. And they already have a little bit. But then you see also you have games on the Fox network on Saturdays all up and down the 6-week season. So from May 6th to June 19th, you're going to have the Spring League rocking and rolling, 24 games, all of them broadcast on Fox Sports Networks with multiple games. It looks like 7 I'm seeing, 7 games on Fox, Big Fox, where the NFL plays on Saturdays, Bryant, too. So I can't wait to see what kind of numbers those games do compared to MLB games on Fox on Saturdays, which everyone says baseball is regional. How many people are watching, a Red Sox game that's on Fox and they live in Arizona? But you know what everyone will watch is football, and I think that's the bet Fox is making. And also I saw something about them having an option for getting a stake in the actual league, ownership stake in the future possibly. So definitely just shows you networks want football on the air all the time, even in the spring. And as you can see with this pretty sweet TV schedule for the Spring League.
Well, something I can appreciate with the TSL is, I guess that's the TSL, is their willingness to partner with anyone who's willing to partner with them. They partnered with the XFL. They're partnering with Fox. They've done so many things to help grow what they do. You have to appreciate that. And now they're adding, I think they added 2 more teams, right? They're going to have divisions.
They got like the
2
Sea
bubbles,
Lions.
The linemen, which we're all fans of the linemen now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
rooting
just obvious.
for the linemen. Although I'm not rooting for any teams that these logos look like they might be infringing on some NFL copyrights. Nobody tell the NFL lawyers. We know how that can go.
Yeah, that could go really bad. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to compare this to MLB. I think that's just something that I don't like doing, is comparing the two.
In terms of viewership?
Yeah, in terms of viewership, because you're talking about 2 different sports.
They'll make a big deal though about it though. If like a Spring League game on a Saturday, not to say it will, but like if it even draws some number that's close to some MLB game that was on the previous week, people are going to say something like, look at football compared to even a big time MLB regular season game in this spot.
Yeah, but then Mike Florio would just say it wasn't 1 million. It's actually lower than what they expected. That's all the narrative.
Your mortal enemy, Mike Florio, who one day I promise you will converse with on this show one day. It's got to happen. Is actually backing, or at least saying the CFL and XFL partnership definitely can work. Like he's, at least lately on Pro Football Talk, I've been reading praising the numbers done by the XFL in 2020.
All of a sudden, did he not read them back then? Come on. Oh, man. I don't even get me started. I wanted to have a good show. Don't get me started with that one. But if the what do you think, like literally, what do you think Fox is expecting out of this? 100,000? What do you think the deal is? Is Fox paying for the rights? I don't know. But if you get 100,000, 200,000, 400, 500, whatever it is, like that's a win to me. If you're the Spring League, and if you're Fox, if you're not paying much for it, hey, let's see what happens. Let's experiment, and let's see what happens. But the the Spring League's business model, I go here to business model. I don't have anything to compare it to, unfortunately. But the way they attract players, right? They make players play to be on these teams so that they can showcase and get some game tape and be out there. It's an interesting business model. They're making money off of it. They're going to be on TV. Ratings so much, I'll be interested to see what they come out as, but I have no expectation here of what they're actually going to be.
Games at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. And I mean, the MLB I'm trying to pull up some ratings real quick for what the MLB might do on a Saturday on Fox. I don't imagine it's anything huge. I won't waste our time. Here you go. I got a nat. Okay. Oh, so actually, this is like from a July. So this isn't current, but I'm looking at a July Saturday, and you have over almost 2.5 million people watching a Yankees Nationals game. But that's in prime time too.
Was
so
it the ESPN broadcast or something?
Well, that's a Fox broadcast. That's a Fox broadcast in the evening.
Yeah, so FS1 has started to broadcast a lot more of their baseball games during Saturday prime time, around 4 Pacific. So that's 7 Eastern. So that's kind of the standard now. Fox every once in a while will air a game as well too, depending on the coverage. But also when baseball's the only thing on television, it tends to do better as well. So that's what that has to do with it. Going forward, excuse me. Look, TSL, great. Good job. Get a great TV deal. Obviously, there's a want for football. That is why the XFL and the CFL are going to do what they're doing to get a new TV contract.
The thing that, besides the football to be entertained by, but if you're following the XFL, and their quest for a TV deal, if TSL draws any kind of rating, Bryant, the XFL has that bodes well. That gives them negotiating power because they're coming at it with a brand, with personnel in terms of the marketing side of it, with the ownership, and then hopefully players that they'll be able to promise not only good crisp football, but entertaining football that some networks are going to pay for a sweet TV deal. And this is pretty sweet, even for the TSL. So cannot wait to see it. And I'm not a ratings watcher. Like on Wednesday nights for the past year or so, you've been like telling me about ratings for shows and I don't now that good thing that's all over with. I don't have to hear about that anymore. But these
they moved
ratings
to Tuesday last week, by the way. I think you have me confused with Mr. Dominguez, but either way, impressive that Fox can actually put 4 games on in a weekend. I mean, these Thursday night games and stuff like that would be a little weird for the XFL CFL thing, but if Fox is willing to put 4 TSL games on a weekend, how many XFL games do you think they're yearning for?
We'll wait. We'll see what the TV negotiations look like, but we're a long way from that. Enjoy the TSL though, kicking off May the 6th. And that does it for the cover 2, Bryant. Now we get into the Super Mega Ultra Grey Cup Bowl Championship Game Series Final. If you're ready.
I am always ready, sir.
Yep. That means it's time for the hot read. And we're going to scoot through this front office sports article by Michael McCarthy, not the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Greenfield native, my backyard here, but the columnist reports that an interleague title game between the XFL and CFL is being discussed, Bryant. An interleague title game. And here's the quote from the article on Front Office Sports. Here's how it could work. A source told Front Office Sports both leagues would play their regular seasons. There could be interleague games similar to MLB. And once the respective XFL and CFL champions are crowned, they'd face off in an interleague championship game. And that's that. So interleague play, not a merger. They said in the article they did reference a merger would be ultimately the goal, but a lot of interleague thrown around, very similar to MLB in that scheme. But when you think AL and NL and the MLB, you've got the DH, and that's about the only difference with a few minor rules here and there, Bryant. The XFL and CFL rule differences, that easy to overcome like it is in MLB, or too drastic?
So let me put it into you. What is it? Apples to oranges, square peg, round hole. What phrase do you want me to throw into this when you talk about the CFL and the XFL and the way they play football? Like,
I'm going to say use the analogy minor league wrestling on Wednesday nights.
I don't even know what that means because I don't watch it. I don't like it, and the main reason is because the games are so different. If you're just doing this like cross streaming type thing, and like the Ghostbusters never cross streams, right? Because it's a bad idea. Don't do it.
But then they did, and then they defeated the giant. Oh, spoiler! Sorry.
Spoiler, yeah. But maybe when you're trying to take down the NFL, then you do it at that point. Who knows? But you're not supposed to. Don't do it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You have two different styles of the sport of football that now I'm not saying that the XFL couldn't play the CFL game, or that could happen very mightily, but I just don't see the point. Now maybe for this one season you do it, goodbye to the CFL, hello to the XFL, you do it all together. A lot of shows be like, oh look, they're playing this game. Oh no, look, they're playing this game. Maybe. But at the end of the day, if you're going to do this, like our friend Dave Naylor says, a title game does nothing for either league. You need a more structured plan than just, hey, let's get the DH in here. Let's get the DH out of here. That's not how this works.
So, but could it? I'm not a huge fan of this, but let me play devil's advocate then here. If you enter a series into the fold, then. And then you guarantee both rule books are respected and played in a championship series. You could do 2 out of 3. And then you have an all-star game, which that'll be fun. Then you could at least pull it off, I think, not for the long term, but like you said, maybe a year or two. It could be a fun thing. You align the seasons so they play at the same time. That way you have people in the United States actually caring about the CFL, maybe because they're watching the XFL, and you have CFL coverage on that. Maybe you combine and get some sort of TV contract here as well, so the CFL games are on and easily accessible, not just on ESPN Plus or whatever they are now. Maybe for a year or two that could work, Bryant, where you expose people to the CFL game. You expose everyone to the XFL game. They play each other in some sort of fun gimmick championship. And then some sort of major moves made where you've maybe eased some fans into some kind of change. Maybe that's the thinking. It's a way of easing Canadian fans into accepting the XFL, easing fans in the United States into the CFL's rules, and then it would buy the leagues more time to figure out exactly what a combined league would be.
I was going to say you're not a very good devil's advocate, but you kind of saved yourself there with the introducing the games to one another. Are you? There's a famous radio station out here, 106.7 K-Rock, right? And there was this article that I read not too long ago that
KROQ, world famous.
They have dramatically and drastically fallen off the face of the earth, and the main reason is because they'll play one song here that's like a Weezer song, and then they'll play this other song that just doesn't make any sense to Weezer fans, but then they go back to something that would make sense. They just do this, right? So what are you doing at that point? You're pissing off two audiences at the same time, right? Is what you're doing. So if you do this with the XFL and the CFL, aren't you making one of them mad at the same time? And then what is your is your end goal the XFL game? So then why are you exposing XFL fans to the CFL game if your end goal is the XFL game?
Is that the end goal, though? Maybe the end goal is not understood quite yet. Yeah, maybe the end goal is not understood. It's not understood exactly what direction. But the thing is, with something like an interleague experiment, you can align, have agreements, have scheduling and planning together, but it's a little looser. You could still do your own thing, and grow together and work together in that way. The big thing, though, is players. How's the XFL get access to some of those players that are in the CFL? How's the CFL get more access to players that would be recruited through the XFL? That's something you also have to consider that I think would be beneficial in this sort of setup. So that kind of makes sense. And I really do feel like biding time. What did we talk about with the XFL 2020? The runway was so great, so much room to figure things out, throw stuff against the wall, experiment with things like the Spring League. This would kind of be like a working experiment. Interleague play with an interleague championship. I feel like it would be a more hastily done type thing than just planning a merger or planning some sort of formal agreement. But I understand that where the CFL's at right now, dire straits it seems. The XFL, almost non-existent, only with a skeleton crew,
except
of
on
staff.
paper.
Yes, and owners. So knowing where they both are, this might make the most sense in terms of growing together and kind of taking baby steps so you have more time to figure out what ultimately the plan for global football domination would be. That's just if that's actually being discussed, I'm trying to put my mind where the people at the negotiating table's minds are at if that's actually what they're talking about. I have to believe that's what's being considered, if that's indeed what is being talked about.
But is interleague play, and then by the way, your series ideas. Who plays football in series? Come on,
no one. That's why
unless you do 1-1, and then you do like an aggregate, right? Like, hey, can you imagine?
People will accept 2 out of 3 before they accept aggregate scores.
Can you imagine like a Rouge wins the championship game for somebody from the game before? It's not even at the game. If you're gonna go with this baby steps model, I think your best bet is to leave them separate. And what is your end goal? Is your end goal to play the XFL game, or is your end goal to play the CFL game? Is your end goal something in between? And then slowly gravitate those two games together and then come together in like 2 or 3 years. That's probably your best bet if you're going to introduce this slowly, because then at that point, maybe you've tested the waters, like, hey, the CFL is not really gravitating towards what we're doing, but the XFL is. Maybe we'll lean a little bit more this way. Like, that's the way you do it. Keep the league separate. Why do you need them to bring them together to gauge interest in both games? Just slightly start changing them.
So you couldn't imagine, or you wouldn't enjoy, like the XFL having a 12-week season where 2 of the games for each team were played against CFL teams, one under CFL rules, one under XFL rules, and counting towards the record, there's an XFL championship game, and then the winner of that gets to play the winner of the CFL's the Grey Cup.
I wouldn't mind. Look, I didn't say I wouldn't enjoy it. That's not what I said here. I said what makes the most sense. As a fan, it's enjoyable, but does it make the most sense?
Track of.
I love the XFL 2001. Hello, not that many people did. I enjoyed it. Just because I enjoy it doesn't mean it makes the most sense. And I think the CFL can possibly, find its way into Americans' households, play a game here and there. Let's look and see what Canadian rules are actually like. But to me, it's a little gimmicky. I don't know how good or how what their gauge of interest is in terms of gimmicks when this time around, because we all knew that last time around there was no interest in gimmicks. So yeah, that's right.
That would be viewed as gimmicky. That would be viewed as gimmicky, I think, but if it means getting the leagues playing side by side on the same schedule, maybe hopefully getting some crossover. Like, if you do that, if it's interleague, that means that trades can be made between the two leagues. You can pick up players that other teams drop off easier. If they drop a player off their roster, the Rough Riders could pick off a Wildcats player. Luis Perez could get traded the week before the season starts to Vancouver or to BC.
This weekend trades, the Roughnecks traded quarterback Cook to the Rough Riders. Rough trade.
So you have interactions actually between the two leagues that affect the play on the field, but it's like the MLB where they're a part of the same league, but they're separate leagues.
Well, so is the AFC and the NFC, but they play the same game. They only play 4 games. It's not a big chunk of their. Well, it's going to be 5 now, but
now 5.
Yeah, it's not a huge chunk of the schedule in comparison to when you're playing 12 games in your conference versus the 4 or 5 that you're playing against the other conference.
Just do one or two interleague regular
season. Okay, but what I'm saying is they're not playing different games. Even the NAL and the NL, people are complaining about, hey, there's a DH. There's not a DH. What should we do? Like, this is weird that we're having teams play with the DH and then not a DH.
One league has guys running the bases with jackets on and the other doesn't.
So now imagine there's an extra guy on the field and somebody saying, hey, 12 men on the field, what's going on here? And like you have to explain the rules every time. Like, it just doesn't. And are you still playing devil's advocate, or are you trying to like make sense of this? Because to me, I saw this. I even asked you who Front Office Sports was because I didn't even know who this was. If this made sense, like, is this reputable? Like, is this something that actually could they be discussing an interleague and maybe it's just misconstrued as, hey, we're going to do a merger and we're going to play games between the XFL and the CFL. We're going to play the same game. We're going to play a championship game. Boom, done. It's not an interleague game. It's a new game.
Well, interleague means there's interactions throughout the season and there's business being done together. It's basically a merger is what that is, except you're keeping – it sounds like this is an attempt to keep the vastly different rule books intact. And we've already said on the show, don't know if that's possible. Concessions must be made. And that's still where I stand. But either way, I'm for these leagues working together. It makes a lot of sense. But this interleague idea would take a lot of convincing for some people. But I might do minimal damage to the CFL's game and their history. So with how the Rock has talked, this reporting makes sense.
When you say minimal damage, is that what you're trying to do? Minimal change, minimal impacts, minimal differences from what's actually happening right now? Are you trying to make a big difference? Are you trying to make the game of football better? Are you trying to make it global? Like, is that what you're trying to do? To me, this is, hey, let's just get the two leagues together and figure it out later. Like, that's like, to me, if they were gonna kick off February of 2022, this is the plan. This is the plan right here. They're gonna just say we're gonna play the XFL game, we're gonna play the CFL game, play a couple games in the middle, and then we'll meet at the end. Let's have fun. Ready? Break. Like, that's the plan. To me, this is not something that too much thought goes into. Mind you, the CFL has 9 teams, the XFL still has 8, so you're gonna have to even that out somehow, I would think. How you do that, who knows? There's a lot of, to me, gosh, I just remember the good old days in 2018 where we didn't worry about the rules so much, but we worried more about how this is all going to come together. I think this conversation is solely 100% going to be about rules until we get something concrete. Because this merger thing, it all comes down to rules, right? That's even this interleague play thing comes down to rules.
You're playing 2 different games right now. You're playing 2 different games. How do you keep them? How do you bring them together? Is this a cold war between 3 down and 4 down football that's coming to bubbling up and becoming a hot war?
A hot war?
I don't know. Is that the opposite of a cold war?
I guess so. I guess peace would be the opposite of a cold war.
Yeah, but who's buying that, Bryant? Who's buying?
Are they throwing down aces at the same time? I guess that is the question. But I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. Go back to guts. It just doesn't feel right.
Well, I am still on the side of figuring out a brand new unified rule book and unified league structure and schedule and all that. But that is maybe a huge task, and maybe interleague play is are baby steps that will be taken. We'll see. Let us know what you think. When I hear that report, that's what I assume is being discussed. These are baby steps as a way to bide time before, something bigger can be achieved. At XFL Show, hit us up. I'm really interested, Brian, to see what people's reactions are to this interleague talk.
Yeah, let us know what you think, because we're here every single week telling you what we think. That's every single Friday right here on your favorite podcast app. That's Google, Apple, Stitcher, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you give us that 5-star review and tell your friends about us. If you got a question, comment, or concern, we'll text or call the XFL Fan Line 724-565-4XFL. Standard text messaging and international rates do apply. Also follow us on all social media platforms at XFL Show. Twitter is my personal favorite. Alan loves Facebook. Or if you want to say hi, hello, subscribe and watch us on YouTube at youtube.com/This Is the XFL Show, the official YouTube page of This Is the XFL Show. And don't forget to check out our sponsors, Pretty Easy Podcasts. Go to pretty-easy-podcast.com and get started today, because they make podcasting pretty easy.
Good, crisp football.
Yes, sir. Here we are. Another week gone by and still waiting. Still waiting, Bryant. Hopefully this show, I think we can agree, will not age well, because there are bigger news weeks coming. This was a lot of speculation again, which I know you thrive on, but next week we'll hear the CFL postponement. So I'm anticipating a lot of angst from our friends up north about their league. So maybe next week we'll have to inject some optimism and look into the future with them. We'll see what comes up, though.
I feel like everyone, I'm on this show very optimistic. That's why I keep doing this show. Why would I not be optimistic if I was doing this show, right? That'd be weird to be doing an XFL show and not be optimistic at this time.
Yeah, what are you going to even play? What's this league? Welcome to the show, everybody.
He can't make it. Let's go kick it.
But in reality, I think the goal for everyone, including fans, including us on the XFL side, for any CFL fans out there, is to make football better, to have fun, to get something that we can enjoy all the time from home.
Or in Mexico, which is like now a new dream of mine, is to go to a huge, not NFL football game in Mexico. That's what I'm going to do.
You're going to go to a non-NFL football game in Mexico?
Yes. Either that league that you and I watched or this league, according to last week's show with the global domination.
Well, if they're playing we got to check where they have those teams. Do they have one like in Rosarito or Acapulco, Cancun?
And Baja.
The Cancun Culebras, maybe, or something like that?
I don't think they had a team in Cancun.
Cancun Conquistadors?
No, that wasn't one of the teams.
The Guadalajara Guapos?
Actually, let's stick to just getting you watching CFL first, and then we'll move on to that. That's baby steps, baby steps.
Baby steps. That's all that this episode's about, baby steps.
It's taking baby steps towards the eventual Supermega Grey Cup Bowl final series. Not series.
Series. Series was your idea. I don't know where you came up with that. That's just...
It's better than aggregate. I think we all can agree on that, unless you're watching or listening in Europe. In that case, have fun, UEFA. Anything else, Bryant?
What'd you call me?
You're Bryant. That's your name.
Oh, I thought
correct?
I thought you were calling me a UEFA. I didn't know what that was. No, that's it. Let's have a great time this week. I'm very anticipating on what's going to happen next week with the CFL. I'm hoping for good things. I always am, but we'll see what happens, and we'll be here next week for sure.
We will. Also, want to say, hail to the king. Hail to the king. Watched Godzilla versus Kong like 8 times since it came out. That's how badly I need football. Although it is a great movie. Great film.
Okay. Might have to watch it.
Huge recommend, everybody. But even more so, this show. We'll catch you next week. For Bryant, I'm Alan. This is the XFL Show. Remember, they're listening.